26 past the hour. Here with us now, Republican Senator from Wyoming, Senator John Barrasso, who recently wrote in the Investors Business Daily about Obamacare. And he says it's blocking job creation and economic growth, and here's why. He writes in part, now even more working Americans are seeing their hours cut because of the unreasonable burdens of the president's health care law. The culprit is a requirement law that companies with more than 50 full-time workers provide expensive one-size-fits-all health insurance. Some small businesses have stopped hiring in order to stay below that number of employees. Others are cutting full-time workers back to part-time status. The Federal Reserve reported in March that the health care law is a major concern for businesses. The drop in hours and the reluctance to hire are having a ripple effect throughout our economy. Wages are stagnant, economic growth is anemic, and I read something recently in the Times about part-time work, and even people who've lost their jobs and have been out and worked for 2 or 3 years being able to find jobs, and they're counted as hired or working, but they're working only 5 or 6 hours a day. And you really think the health care legislation is behind these numbers?
Well, I do, and the Federal Reserve says it as well. And this is hurting jobs, it's hurting care, and it's also hurting paychecks. Even the city of Long Beach, California, came out and said that for their part-time workers, there's 1,600 of them, they're going to get all of them lower than 30 hours per week, so that then they don't have to, that the city doesn't have to provide expensive health insurance, even though they may have wanted to provide some level of health insurance. What the law mandates is expensive health insurance, much more than many people want, need, or can afford. So what we're seeing all across the country is full-time workers cut back to part-time workers, part-time cut to less than 30 hours. There are 20 million unemployed in this country who are looking for more work or work. Millions have given up looking for jobs.
I'm going to break it out to the panel in just a second. We have Eugene still with us, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. But just first of all, overall, do you see benefits to the health care legislation that are really significant?
Well, I think it's important that kids under the age of 26 can stay on their parents' health care plans, but when the president says it's free, it's not free. There's a cost to that. There are lots of things we can do to help people and individualize and personalize their care that are a lot less expensive than this complete overhaul of the health care system in America.
Steve Ratner?
Senator, we have seen some of the things that you talk about out there in terms of the part-time work and people not hiring, but so far it's really been very anecdotal, I think, rather than, so here are some solid numbers to tell you what's happening. For example, your point about wages being stagnant. Wages have been stagnant for 3 years, long before the health care law went into effect. I don't think we really yet have tangible, concrete proof that this is part of what is keeping our economy from recovering.
Well, and as you wrote earlier this week, we should have expected a much more robust recovery by now. Business leaders are saying they're not hiring, they're making decisions, some of it due to the uncertainty related to the law. The president had a press conference on Tuesday, and he said for the 90% of Americans who have health insurance, you have nothing to worry about. Premiums are continuing to go up. They're talking 25, 30% a year this year for health insurance premiums. That's a cost to families and to businesses. All of this is hurting hiring.
Senator, has one Fortune 500 CEO come out and said it's going to change their hiring practices, the health care law?
Well, what you've seen is a movie chain saying we're moving everyone to part-time in less than 30 hours. You're seeing restaurants are doing the same
obviously
thing.
A 3 or 4 person. I'm saying any Fortune 500 company says one CEO come out and said this is going to be changed the way I'm hiring, because I would be shocked if they would.
Well, it's the small businesses of the country that drive the economy and really get people working again. And when businesses are penalized by going from 49 to 50 full-time employees, which is the other part of this, once you hit 50, you have to provide not just insurance that your employees may want, but government-mandated high levels of expensive insurance. So businesses all around the country, and certainly I can point to those size businesses that are saying we're not going to grow, we're not going to hire.
Eugene Robinson.
I just want to follow up on Steve Ratner's question, because it's essentially the impression you're leaving, Senator, or what you're saying is that the economic recovery is sluggish because of Obamacare, because of Obamacare dread, or something like that. And I'm really unaware of any solid information that links those two, that establishes causality there. Do you know of something that I don't?
You know, and I know the White House is watching this. I would hope that they would make sure the president knew about these components of the health care law, the 50-employee issue of having to provide expensive coverage when they go up to 50 employees, because that is hurting small businesses. I hope they make sure the president understands that at 30 hours, employees are counted as full-time, so that businesses across the country, and not just businesses, we're talking about government entities. The city of Long Beach saying, we're cutting the hours of government employees of the city to less than 30 hours, and that's going to hurt the paychecks of those individuals, but also it's because the city says we can't afford the expensive mandates of the health care law. All
right, so just you and me here, and no panel. I just want to end this and ask you about guns. I really appreciate that you met with the families of the Newtown tragedy. And we've been talking about Senator Kelly Ayotte, and we actually played a soundbite early on in the show that didn't fully give her answer on her no vote. Then we, later in the show, played a minute 42. Which is really long for television, but we wanted to play the entire answer. We still didn't get it. Obviously, we come from a viewpoint here that's very different to yours, but can you please explain your no vote?
Yes, and I'll tell you, of course, we're going to disagree on this.
Right.
But you're right. I was the first Republican senator to meet with the families, the parents of one of the teachers who was killed, and the parents of a number of the children who were killed. And I said, what we need to do is we need to start on the base of mental health. We need to focus on mental health and bring that bill to the Senate and build on that, and not the issues of all of the other components of the president wanting to go get the guns, but do something that actually would have helped prevent what happened at Newtown, what happened in Colorado at the movie theater. Those were both failures of our mental health system. And background checks, as you raise, we have one law on the books right now under both President Bush and President Obama. They've completely failed. 44,000 in 2010, 44,000 felons and fugitives were caught trying to buy guns through a background check, and only 40 of them were prosecuted, less than 1%. It's a failure of both the Bush administration and the Obama administration.
So let me ask you this. I completely agree about mental health legislation. I don't think anyone would disagree with that if they take a close look at the problem and it being an equal component. But guns are clearly right now flying loose in our society. Why wouldn't you want, I mean, putting mental health aside, we should do it together, but we can't apparently in Washington. Why wouldn't you want a better background check system, a more complete one, or one at least that's better than the one we have? Why wouldn't you vote for that?
The one that we have now, they're not implementing, they're not enforcing. What makes us think that they're going to enforce one that does even more checks on more people? I mean, that's my question. And in terms of actually the bipartisan mental health proponent, Lamar Alexander, conservative, Tom Harkin, liberal Democrat, they came up with a proposal. 95 senators voted in favor of it. So that should be the base bill.
There's a better background check bill that you would support?
I support the background check law that we have now, but it's not being enforced.
Okay.
Neither the administrations, the current one or the one before, has enforced that.
Thank you so much for coming on the show. Appreciate it. It's good to see you again. Senator John Barrasso, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Eugene, thank you as well. We'll look for your column in the Washington Post and online.